What is up, everybody? This is Adam. Welcome back to Fouled Out. Today's podcast is coming with a heat warning. Be careful not to burn your ears because we are dropping NBA hot takes with Matt and Clint. Typically, we make fun of hot take culture on this podcast where people from ESPN or Yahoo or these other podcasts just say something outlandish in order to get heard and make a name for themselves. But today we are going over my fully flushed out NBA hot takes that I truly believe in. I think the first one especially is going to be really fun for discussion and debate because it's like the perfect thing to say to Matt and Clint on a podcast to really get them going. So they're going to join me in just a minute to get that started. But before that, just a reminder, you can hit us up, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. We really appreciate you guys listening to the podcast, and we would love to get your feedback. Send me your NBA hot takes or email me just to tell me that I'm crazy, which I think a lot of people are going to do after I drop these today. Tell us what's working, tell us what's not for you on the podcast and what you want to hear more of. Again, appreciate you guys listening, and we would really love to hear from you. So let's go get Matt, let's go get Clint, and let's drop some hot takes. Let's go. All right, Matt is here and back for, I think, the first time since the NBA Finals last season. Fan favorite Clint. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good.
Ready for these hot takes.
I hope so. So, like I mentioned in the opening, I got 3 hot takes. Matt and Clint have no idea what I'm about to say. And the birth of this podcast idea was because this first take was something I thought of in the shower, which, you know, I spend probably more time than most people thinking about NBA basketball in the shower, but less time than some, I'm sure. And
so you're mid.
I feel like there's a Venn diagram where all of those things are coming together, and like the Kardashians fit in there in some capacity too, but it's like not in a way that you want. So I just had this image of like all of these different cross sections right now, and it's fucking.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's the thoughts that pass over that involve the Kardashians are not remotely sexual.
It's like reality TV, the NBA, and things people think too much about while they're in the shower. And then where all of those 3 things combine is the Kardashians.
I mean, I just like. Yeah, they're stupid, and they fucked with Lamar Odom for a while. So I mean, it's NBA adjacent. Like,
well, and Devin Booker and
fuck me, I didn't
Blake Griffin.
Yep.
Oh,
jeez.
Yeah,
Chris Humphries.
Chris Humphries, that was a weird one, but all right, whatever.
You ever listen to the song "Cold" by Kanye West? The fact that Kim Kardashian fell in love with Chris Humphries almost got him kicked off the Brooklyn Nets. That's a real story. Kanye told Jay-Z he wanted him kicked off the team. And he's like, I can't really do that. Not that kind of owner. But anyways, I thought of this first hot take, and I was like, I wanted to text it to Matt, and I was like, I actually think that waiting, I think it was like 3 months, and then getting on a podcast and inviting Clint is like the perfect way to say this. So Matt's been waiting for this forever.
I've been waiting for it for like 2 weeks, for the record. Like, I've known about this.
Feels like forever. So hot take number 1, and I'm going to drop the take and then we can discuss. LeBron James' time with the LA Lakers has done more damage to its legacy than it has helped it. It's been worse it's been more negative for his legacy than positive.
I think that's like a little bit based in reality there. So I don't even think that's a hot take. I think that's just like looking at things from an objective point of view.
Yeah.
Like,
well, that's what makes it so hot, is that you can't do that in NBA discussions nowadays.
Especially around LeBron.
That's fair, I suppose.
Well, so this is why I was like, I'm going to get Matt and Clint, and we're going to talk about this because I feel like this is the only safe space for me to say this, because I workshop this take other places, and got absolutely annihilated for it. But I was thinking about this because I feel like LeBron's time in LA for the most part has actually been a failure, according to what it should be for a guy who's chasing the greatest player of all time in Michael Jordan and trying to win championships. And really, like, if you're LeBron at this point, any season where you don't win a championship is a wasted season.
Yeah.
So LeBron, this is actually his 6th season in LA. I did not think it had been that long. That is more time than he spent in Miami. It's more time than he spent in Cleveland during his 2nd stint. And next season, actually, if he plays 7 seasons in LA, will match his 1st stint in Cleveland from when he was drafted to when he left. So he's been in LA for a long time. And he's kind of had 2 major accomplishments while he's been with the Lakers. They won the bubble championship. And then he set the all-time points record and got to 40K. The points record would have happened anywhere.
Yeah.
That was always going to happen. That's not an LA specific thing.
Yeah. I mean, when you are the face of the league in a time where the league is intentionally pushing scoring and making it harder to play defense, it would be kind of embarrassing for someone to have played as long as he has and not set the record.
Yeah, it's going to be a sheer longevity thing, and wherever he would have gone, it would have happened. So I don't really count that as like an LA accomplishment.
No,
I would agree. I just think that like to me, I kind of take the teams out of it for that. That's like a personal thing. Like it really didn't matter who'd he be playing with, and there'll be some pedantic asshole being like, yes, it would have. And it's like, no, he's taken teams who are literally the worst other, starting 5 or starting 4 players in the league and drug them to the NBA finals. Like his first time around in Cleveland, he like that was his whole thing. So, and yeah, like his game wasn't as refined back then, but you were still seeing him come out with like these really big games. So I think that's less of like a Lakers accomplishment and more of just like, I don't consider that part of like the discussion. Like the thing that I guess I would look at is like your playoff stuff and what have you done to contribute where the Lakers are going to say like, thank you for your service.
Yeah. So this is really why I think it's been more of a negative for him than a positive is because they do win the one championship. And every time I like workshop this take or like threw it out to other people, they're like, how can you say that his time there has been a net negative? He won a championship. Like, yeah, he won one. And we can sit here and we can debate the merits of the bubble championship all day. But the fact is that it's somewhat questionable. If you listen to other NBA players talk about it, they don't respect it as much as they do other championships. But it's a ring, right? But look at how this team has fared every other season that he's been in LA. So in 18-19, he gets hurt and they miss the playoffs. In 20 and 20, the 20 season, they're a play-in team. 21, they missed the playoffs altogether. 22, last season, the 22-23 season, they make the Western Conference Finals, but they got in as a play-in team that got a couple favorable matchups, and then they get swept by the Nuggets, right? And then this year, again, we're looking at another play-in team. So it's a team that's constantly finished around 7th or 8th in the West. And while they've had some playoff success outside of the bubble, it's not enough to merit that this has been a success for LeBron James.
I want to pump the brakes there with what you just said. The Lakers, so I'm not disagreeing that it's been like a failure. What are the Lakers known for? Like historically?
Winning championships one of the and having best, star players.
Being one of the best teams in the West consistently, right? So you shit the pot, 4 out of the 6 last seasons. And it's like, I don't think LeBron James considers like missing the playoffs, okay, like that would be an L if you asked him during like he would take accountability for that in the regular season. But yeah, like there's not very many net positives that I see objectively for the Lakers fans to be like, man, it's been really great not having a stable, consistent roster for the last 5 years. And we're a fucking revolving door of bullshit. But like, hey, we won in the bubble and we got our asses kicked by Jokic last year. So, you know what I mean? It's like, no, that like they're not content with that. Just like, for the longest time, New England fans weren't content with like making the NFC or whatever championship game. So it's just like the thing that it speaks to me is like, yeah, you got one, but you've had Anthony Davis and all of these other characters and you haven't gotten more. When there have been opportunities, like the Warriors aren't an excuse anymore. You can't fucking blame it on them.
LeBron James isn't just a player, he's a GM, right? He's always pretty much, ever since he left Cleveland the first time, like he has absolutely meddled in roster construction everywhere he's been. And I'm not even gonna like push back on GMs for doing that, because bringing him in is enough of a win that it probably is worth it for them in that situation. But from the perspective of looking at LeBron, it's like, to me, not having the help pretty much anywhere but his first stint in Cleveland isn't an excuse, because he was a major part of those decisions. Like, not like, oh, we have LeBron, so therefore it's no, LeBron is a big part of the decisions that led to those rosters. Like, in addition, like, I think too, when we look at the lack of playoff success overall in those 6 years, like, I think one of the strongest points against LeBron prior to coming out West was, okay, well, like, in his time in the Eastern Conference, like, it was kind of an easy path to the finals most years for him. And
when he was in
well,
Miami or like Cleveland the first time around,
like most year, when in the run of consecutive, like appearances in the NBA finals, like
yeah.
there generally weren't a whole lot of seasons where it's like there was a real formidable team that they had to go through in order to get there. There just wasn't. Like a lot of times it was like, oh, like this Raptors team that like Dwayne Casey would just let LeBron roast the same defender 9 possessions in a row before he pulled them off him. Like,
yeah, well, I mean, like the Atlanta Hawks were historically really good too, but
yeah, but
they were
they
team
never performed.
basketball.
Yeah, and they never performed
yeah.
in the playoffs ever. They're very much what I expect the Timberwolves to be. So now that he's on the Lakers, we're kind of seeing like, oh, what do you know? What the crowd that was kind of pushing that argument with LeBron before, we're kind of seeing that come to fruition. There was the bubble, which like big debate. Other than that, like the 1 year where they went deep, they got some real lucky matchups. And like, you and I would probably both agree, if Steven Adams is on that Grizzlies team, I don't think they get past the Grizzlies.
Oh, here we go. Steven fucking Adams.
That's what this podcast is about now.
I think
Steven Adams and Jose Calderon.
I think the league is also just a lot deeper than it was during LeBron's, like, let's say, peak, and that he's obviously on the downside of that now. But when he made 10 straight finals, like you look at the East End and look at the East now, the Celtics are a lot better now. There was no Giannis and Embiid, like all these other guys.
Yeah.
We were in a really weird spot. So like I'm looking back on that, I kind of feel like it's the like the new set of people kind of coming in are in between, like, there's not very many people who are going to be big in like the younger class, but all of like the great talents from like the 2000s are gone.
Yeah.
So like he kind of just naturally, because he's been playing so long and all these other things, he just like was just that much further ahead. And then like the East didn't have anybody.
Yeah.
Where
Well,
like all of the big name talent was out west, or like doing other stuff.
and I mean, think about it. Like, who were the guys that like challenged him the most as like potentially being like the best players in the league? It was Kawhi Leonard and Kevin Durant, both guys who like have missed significant periods of time over the last several years with injuries.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a different league now, but the reason I still have this on the Hot Take podcast, even though the three of us agree with it, is that nobody is talking about this right now. And you can tell the main thing that lets you know that LeBron's time in LA has been a failure is that nobody in the media is talking about what a failure it is, because the LeBron media machine and Maverick Carter have switched the narrative to be, look at LeBron. He's 39 years old and he's like doing all these amazing things. Look at his stats. Look at this. Like, he broke the scoring record. Oh, he got to 40K. Oh, is anybody ever going to get to 40K again? And nobody's focusing on the fact that for the last 4 seasons, let's say, since the bubble, this has been a complete shit show and a complete failure in LA. You know, they pushed to make the Anthony Davis trade a year early. And granted, they do win the bubble championship. But I also think about, what would this team look like if they could have just been patient? Because he was going to go there in free agency anyway. And instead, you don't have Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball and Julius Randle and all these guys. The last of those might actually be a benefit when it comes to the playoffs, not having Julius Randle, because having him could be a problem. But they've consistently, and this is like the kind of the final point about why this has been a negative, is that the time in LA has highlighted all of the bad things about having LeBron on your team. Is they've consistently mortgaged their future over and over again to get Davis, and then they got to go and make another trade, and it's Russell Westbrook, which was a absolute unmitigated disaster.
Abject failure.
They got to get rid of him and bring in someone else, and they got to trade, and they got to trade. And then this year, the trade deadline comes up, and even though they have nothing to trade and there's nothing on the market for them, LeBron is tweeting like hourglass emojis and eyeball emojis and like still putting pressure on the front office to do something. And at the end of the deadline, nobody looks at it and goes, oh, well, you know, the Lakers really don't have any assets because of everything they've done for LeBron. Everybody looks at it and goes, how could they not get LeBron help? Look how great he is at 39 years old. And I would argue, is like what we've all been saying for the last 20 minutes, is that this is all a situation of LeBron James' own creation.
Yeah.
And that this team is no better than a play-in team.
I need you guys to hang with me for a second, because I feel like next fall you're gonna want me around for some commentary during the old football season.
You gonna talk about intangibles?
No, I'm gonna talk. So like the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron have the same problem as Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. They don't have stability. They make really poor bets on like trying to take care of their like stars, and then it just completely fucking blows up in their face. Like, they're not like humble enough to admit, hey, maybe not having a consistent roster, we're rotating fucking players every 35 games. Like, it's like all of these things, and then like, well, LeBron doesn't have enough help. It's like he's orchestrating the fucking circus right now, and he's participating in it. So it's like, it strikes me as real like Jerry Jones energy. And it's like the reputation of one person kind of is like a blinder for all the fucking mediocrity. I'll get off my soapbox now.
On a side note, since you mentioned the Cowboys, I also think the funniest thing in the world is that they get knocked out of the first round of the playoffs by Green Bay this year. And they go, you know whose fucking fault this is? Tony Pollard, because he should have had a better season, and they just let him go. Didn't franchise him, didn't try to re-sign him, and now he's a free agent. They're like, this goddamn running back should have been better.
You know who we need more of? Mike McCarthy.
Yes, that's not the problem. So yeah, but I mean, it's just everything with this, and like I would say, if you're the Lakers and you could go back in time and be like, would we do the LeBron thing all over again? They probably do it just because having LeBron James has made them relevant. It's made them a name. And the absolute worst thing, if you're the LA Lakers, is to be completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Even if you're not great and you're not competing for championships, you got to be in the news. You got to be relevant. But I also think if you would have told Jeannie Buss and the GMs and all the guys from LA, they're like, yeah, you got to sign LeBron and you got to have him until he's retiring. Right. And they're like, oh, yeah, it's like a 4-year thing. And it's like, no, it's probably like a 7 or 8-year thing. I think if they knew it was going to be this long and the franchise was going to be in this bad a shape when he does hang it up, that they would have second guessed their decision to bring him in the first place. I think they do it, but I think they're like, ugh.
I don't think so. Because I think you're overestimating just how much winning is a priority for this organization. The media attention and the money that, like, obviously the Lakers are always going to be generating cash because
LeBron
they're the Lakers.
Puts
but
LeBron, like that's the
LeBron
truth.
Takes everything up to the nth degree. He is basketball, like, right? It's the
people
way
buy tickets for their team just to watch him lose to them. Like, that's a draw.
If you had to pick, would you rather be the Lakers with the LeBron James situation or the Clippers with the Kawhi Leonard Paul George situation?
I don't want to be in California. Like, not even for Golden State or Sacramento. Like
never. But I just mean, like, if you're the Lakers and they do the LeBron thing, and it's like, oh, if you would have not done that and waited a year, you could have had Kawhi Leonard and Paul George instead. Do you think they would rather take that route or just stick with the route they're on and have LeBron James?
Probably the route they're on. Like, LeBron is a money magnet, so I think, like, it doesn't matter where you're at. Like, I would imagine profits and stuff have been a net positive since he's been there, and like his monetary draw that he brings in and stimulates for all the Lakers licensing and all that kind of stuff. So I think like that again is something, but like LeBron being basketball, it just strikes me as the vain choice to have him as like your marquee guy. Like, I don't know if it goes that deep other than, oh, this is like the popular look and we're fucking Tinseltown and we make the look.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's like we look at the situation where like LeBron is putting up all these crazy stats and like the media is like really pushing him doing all that. But like the way I see it, if LeBron was like really that committed to winning another championship, like at like obsessed level, he would be taking a lot more of like a teaching role on this team, and he wouldn't have to be putting up all these crazy stats.
Yeah, this could have been a hot take, but it's not one of the ones I wrote down. I think at this point, LeBron's realized he's never going to win another championship. And so it's like, for him, you're never going to get to 6, right? Which is where you needed to be in the conversation with Jordan. You could have been 6-6 for all I care, but you need 6 rings to be in the conversation. So I think he's looking at like, okay, how do I make a case for myself to be the GOAT if I'm not going to have 6 rings? And it's more accolades, more scoring titles, and just he's going to try to put a points number out there somewhere that's going to be untouchable for the rest of NBA history. No one else is ever going to score 40,000 points. I really doubt it, just because of the longevity it requires. But
people aren't coming straight from high school.
But so it's like, how do I get there? And he's trying all these other things because he knows he's never going to get the one thing that he really needs for it to be a conversation. So I think that's why the narrative's getting pushed so good is because or so hard is people are going to be like, well, just look at like the body of work and the longevity and like the things we say about Tom Brady is like he has all the records and he's played so long and blah, blah, blah. But the difference is that Tom also has the rings to back it up and LeBron's just never going to have those.
I think LeBron lost that conversation when he didn't keep his winning percentage in the finals to be like 100 for championships. Like, that's basically how I see it. Like, you've squandered more opportunities getting there than you have like bringing it home.
I think
so. Like, to me, it's
like,
not even a competition at that point. It's like, no, dude, like, what's the ratio? Like 40% of the ones he was in, he won, and then 60% probably.
Yeah, what is he like 4 and?
I think
4 and 6. He's been to 10. Yeah, it's just one of those things where like I think if you could have, I didn't need him to be like 6 or 7 and 0, but if you could have been like 6 and 3 and been like, okay, I have as many rings as Jordan and I made more finals than he did. Just happened to lose them. I think there's more of a debate there than like, well, I've been to 10, and it's like, yeah, but you only won 4 of them, dude. And
your winning percentage,
Jordan went 6 for 6.
Yeah, like you're not 500. So like, being a nerd playing Magic the Gathering, it's like you want your matchups to be about 50%, 51%, and like the meta decks are like the crazy good ones are like 60%. You would never be like happy playing something that 40% of the time is only going to win. Like your odds are dog shit. Like, why would you do that? I don't get it. I don't know who could make that fucking argument or like have that conversation, but like the most sincere, like, bless your heart from the great South of America.
It's the same people who are going to email me at our podcast email address after the show and be like, what the fuck are you talking about? He won a ring there. How could you say that?
Yeah.
All right. Hot take number 2. If you were starting an NBA franchise and you were allowed to pick one player in their prime, anybody in NBA history, you should pick Nikola Jokic. I got a few reasons to back it up. So I think Jokic's skill set, Matt and I have talked about ad nauseum on this podcast, is unique and devastating for a guy who's that size. And he, as good as he is in the regular season, he's well on his way to winning his 3rd MVP in 4 years right now. He's even better in the postseason. So we know he can get it done. We know he's not going to choke. And the main reason that I say that Nikola Jokic should be your first pick and would be my first pick is that no matter who the second player I get on my team is, I know he fits with him. I know he does. I don't think Nikola Jokic is the GOAT. You know, I think a lot of people would say, well, you should pick Michael Jordan. He's the greatest player of all time. But the guys who can play with Michael Jordan, both on like an on-court fit and an off-court fit with his mentality and his attitude, is a lot more limited than the guys I can put with Jokic.
Well, you can't put anybody from today's era with Michael Jordan because they would just quit the team because he'd treat them so poorly. So like, it's like, I can't mix these guys in because they're soft.
Well, also the problem with Michael Jordan is that if you're in today's era and you have prime Michael Jordan, it's a lot harder nowadays to go to the casino and go to the strip club until 4 a.m. and then play a playoff game at 1 p.m. than it was back in the 90s. When like now that everybody has a phone and social media and stuff, Michael Jordan would be way more of a headache for you than you think.
But he was able to handle it, unlike James Harden. So,
oh no, I always say this about Michael Jordan is that he was an asshole and he was a partier and a womanizer, and you know he was out until all hours of the night. Drinking, and then he's like playing golf and gambling and doing the strip club and all sorts of stupid shit. And then
coaching Tiger Woods on how to cheat on his wife.
Yep. And then
what do you tell these girls? You say, I'm Tiger fucking Woods.
Well, when it came game time, he showed up. It didn't matter what he was doing. And sometimes it makes it even more impressive that he would go in and beat Patrick Ewing's ass with a hangover and having lost like $100,000 at Atlantic City the night before. So
that actually might have helped.
I'm like, that's impressive, man.
Just like got incredibly pissed off about the money that he lost and just takes it out on Patrick Ewing.
Who are you taking, Matt? Like, if this is a question, we can.
So
we're starting our own thing, and I want to
to
make sure I can pick anybody that's ever played in the NBA.
Anybody you want in your prime, but the rules are you don't know who guy number 2 is going to be. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to get Kevin Durant so I can have whoever. It's like you have to build a team.
I might have a
scratch.
I might have a controversial take for this one.
I was definitely, as soon as you like ran off the prompt, like I immediately went to Jordan. However, once you said Jokic, what immediately jumped into my head was Nikola Jokic is singularly responsible for the fact that Michael Porter Jr. is making $35 million a year. You can be literally hot garbage and still appear to be a functional basketball player if you are playing with Jokic. Michael Porter Jr. cannot play basketball. The only reason why he is in the league is because of his fucking size. He's a perimeter player who doesn't have a perimeter skill set.
So are you gonna take Jokic, Matt? Or
you convinced me.
I think like when you think of just like I guess the other thing I didn't mention too, I want to hear Clint's take because he said it's going to be controversial. But the other thing I didn't mention is you think about like temperament. Like Clint brought this up with today's players, is that like they're whiny and needy and they're switching teams all the time.
Fucking baby mode.
You could put Jokic in any era because he literally does not give a fuck.
Yeah.
He could play with Michael Jordan because he does not give a fuck. He just wants to go home and like race his horses.
Yeah. He just wants to play ball and, take care of his horses.
You don't have to worry about the personalities of anybody else on the team.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the skill sets because he's going to make everybody better. And he's like just a stud basketball player. But Clint,
with a milquetoast personality that I appreciate. I like. That's
Jokic. The best part about him is that he
carries himself kind of like Tim Duncan.
Yeah, he's so different from anybody else that we have in the game today. Anybody else in professional sports right now.
He's got a little bit more bite than Timmy D. Like,
but
people forget like Jokic has been in a number of scuffles. Like a lot.
It was like Marcus Cousins or something. Wasn't it?
Yeah, one of the Morris twins. But there's
Morris. Yeah, that's right. Sorry.
You can YouTube some cut ups of.
I've watched them.
They're all him reacting to things, right? Like he's not like
you
like
on the bear. Like stop messing with the bear. No, so anybody in their prime throughout all of time, I think it's kind of adjacent. But I would probably pick Bill Russell. But I mean, he does a lot of things that Jokic did, and he is a great team player, which is why he was fucking awesome. So, like, it's kind of a cop out. I think, like, Jokic, I mean, the first person that I thought of that I was like, oh man, I would love to just to do the 2K like fucking dynasty team with like Allen Iverson as the leader, right? Like, that would be fun. But realistically, I'm not like, that's not like, there's a very particular group of guys that need to be around him in order for that team to have success. Whereas if I have a Bill Russell, it's like, no, I can trust him to be a great teammate regardless of who the fuck is around him. And I think, like, you guys are totally right with Jokic too. I think just to be a contrarian, I picked Bill Russell, but I don't think like he shot as well as Jokic did, or if the 3-point line was even a thing while he was playing. So my dad is somewhere like jumping off his couch, like, hell yeah, Clint,
Hell yeah. Bill Russell, the GOAT. He's like, they didn't even talk about him in the last segment. He's the GOAT.
Yeah. So I do feel that like Jokic does have that personality, and like, yeah, he's gonna be one of those guys who like it just reminds me a lot of somebody who practices stoicism. Like, can't rattle him. He's just going to be on his grind. He's not going to bitch about the things that he really isn't in control of. You don't really hear him doing that an awful lot. So it's, I think that it's a good mentality, and like, he's not a head case. So like, it doesn't matter who you put around him. He'll try and like wrangle him the best he can.
That's kind of my thing, is like off court and on court fit. I think he's just like the perfect cornerstone. Matt and I were talking last week about Dame's experience in Milwaukee and about how it's been really hard on him because he basically goes and plays or practices and comes home and watches boxing clips by himself. He's like, I'm just super bored. And we were talking about like, Giannis is probably not a super fun guy to hang out with. Right. Yeah. I feel like if Dame was in Denver and was having this type of experience, Jokic would be like, come friend, we go to my farm and ride horses. And Dame would come back just like a totally changed person and be like, spent one day on that horse with Jokic and it's life-changing event.
Dame, you want to horse around?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's really interesting. I like that. I like that take. I think some of those issues are like, it's your, first foray in Milwaukee. So it's like, you don't really have anything that you're trying to accomplish there. And I'm not speaking basketball wise. Like, he was a pillar of the fucking Portland community. Like, everybody loved this guy and he gave back to them a lot. Yeah. So like, I don't think you go to a new city and just like, that's your first move is like, how can I be a great person to the people in this city? And like, yeah, you got Giannis and some of the other guys around you, but it's like, isn't he going through like a divorce or some shit like that?
Yeah, I was gonna say there's some personal stuff too.
Yeah,
so
like that would be awful.
This was the whole theme of the podcast last week, is that Dame went to Joe Cronin and said, hey, I want to get traded to Miami. And Joe Cronin's 4D chess move was to force him into a divorce with his wife and abandon his kids. He's like, fuck you. This is what you get for putting Joe Cronin in the corner. Trade you to Milwaukee. There's nothing to do except for drink beer and eat cheese and watch boxing.
That's fucking crazy.
Because his kids and his wife are all the way back in Portland, and his whole family wanted to go to Miami, and they were promised they would go to Miami. And then it's like, okay, he's going off to Milwaukee by himself, and everybody thought it was going to be such a great thing, and there's issues with it. But this was the through line. That was the through line of the podcast last week, though, was like, don't force people to work for you if they don't want to work for you.
Yeah.
Don't give Monty Williams $78.5 million because he turned down $60 million. Don't do it.
Christ.
We're going back.
The one other person that I thought about was Kevin Garnett.
Really?
Yeah. Because like, we can't look at like what he achieved like in terms of the like playoff success in Minnesota.
Well, I mean, that's the West too. Like,
it was in the West, which was fucking brutal. And like, he played point forward for 12 years.
Yeah.
In a time where like that was not like, nobody built rosters in a way that could support that.
Yeah, he was an anomaly for sure.
Yeah, and he is like the template for why guys like Kevin Durant and some of the other more creative bigs are like became possible. So
yeah, from an on-court perspective, yes.
Off-court,
he's so intense that I don't know that people like this. This was my whole thing with Jokic, is just like the personality fits with everybody.
Yeah.
It's like almost like Michael Jordan with Kevin Garnett. It's like, I just don't know if you can't guarantee that you can put guys from today's game with Kevin Garnett and that they're going to be okay mentally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
You're right. It should be Steven Adams.
That was the I was waiting for that take. Is like, yeah, it's obviously Steven Adams. He's the MVP, but like, let's not forget that Kevin Garnett called Charlie Villanueva a cancer patient, and also wished Tim Duncan a happy Mother's Day, the Mother's Day after his mom died. So like, he was intense and he was an asshole.
Yeah,
He was
basketball
like
player.
the original NBA
Yeah.
shitposter. Like
He also
Yeah.
told Carmelo Anthony that his wife tastes like vanilla. So like,
yeah,
you know, tough guy to play with sometimes, but one of the greatest trash talkers ever.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm not holding that against him. I think that almost like kind of built it up for me a little bit.
dude,
Yeah,
his finals interview was like the fucking stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life.
I just like to bring these stories up anytime we talk about Kevin Garnett because it's just
Everything is possible.
It outlines. Yeah, no, it's the thing though. He's intense in all areas.
Yeah.
It's up to 100%.
Yeah, he
everywhere.
never turns it off.
No, like listen to him on podcasts nowadays is fucking amazing. But he's at 100. He comes in like 110% on these podcasts.
It's like me and our staff meetings. God damn.
I'll come work with you guys. We'd
love to have you.
Yeah. I would not do a good job. I would not.
Absolutely you could.
You just have to not be a shithead.
Yep.
No promises.
We can teach you the rest of it.
Yeah.
Hot take number 3 is the last one. And I realized this one's a little bit out, I think, of Clint's wheelhouse. Because I know you're not like a big NBA draft guy.
Yeah.
But my take is that the development of foreign players and the G League is a good thing for the NBA, but a horrible thing for the NBA draft and college basketball. Matt, can you name one of the top 5 prospects in the NBA draft this season?
No, I can't. I mean,
I looked this
maybe,
James.
Yeah.
I looked it up earlier today and I can't remember the name.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is like I've heard like over a dozen names of guys that are like going to be coming out this year. I don't remember any of them.
So this is the thing. The top 3 players are foreign players in this draft. 2 more of the top 7 are going to be from the G League.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 of the top 7 are not going to go to the NCAA. And then the ones that do, I think one is from Colorado and the other's from Baylor.
Mm-hmm.
The average fan.
Big ass kid from Purdue's not like going to declare or something.
He might, but he's not up there because he kind of.
Oh, he's like
a little
second
stiff.
or third round or something.
Yeah, he's probably late first, early second. But
okay,
this is my thing though.
Yeah.
Is that 5 of the top 7 prospects are not going to play college basketball. The average basketball fan will have seen these top 5 guys play a combined 0 games before their first NBA game. And you might say, Adam, this is a bad draft, which I agree. This draft sucks, and that's part of the problem. But also, last year, we had an absolute freak of nature in Victor Wembanyama come into the league, and there was not that much hype and fanfare around it because at very most, the average fan had seen him play 1 game, which would have been the exhibition between his French team and the G League Ignite.
Yeah.
But the vast majority of people I felt like didn't even know who he was until he walked across that stage. And like him coming into the NBA should have had the hype level of like when LeBron got drafted, or at the very least when like Kevin Durant and Greg Oden had that draft, like, or Zion. It should have been a big fucking deal. And I feel like people kind of still don't know who he is, even though he's been absolutely incredible this season because he quietly came in. Nobody had watched him really play before. Like your average fans had not watched him play before he came into the NBA. Then he goes to a team that's won 9 games this season. They're not on national television. People have not seen him play a lot, and there should be a lot more fanfare around him. So, we're going to go into March Madness soon. We're going to do the March Madness podcast, and we're going to talk about a lot of guys on that podcast who are juniors and seniors in college basketball, the big guys to watch. because a lot of the guys who would be the top prospects playing in March Madness, they go into the G League, or they're these foreign guys that don't come over and play college basketball. So
Yeah.
I think that this is like the death of the NBA draft, because the worst thing you can be in sports is irrelevant. And
Yeah.
nobody cares about the draft this year. Nobody's talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, as a feature of the NBA that can make it money, like it's a big hit. And I mean, really, like, what it comes down to is, the G League and foreign players, like, they can get their hands on these guys younger. And they have more than 1 year to develop someone who's got high athletic upside. Because any of these guys that like have the athletic ability to be going in the lottery, like if they go to a university, like they're only staying for 1 year. And anyone who stays longer than that is, not that this is important, like, but like their ceiling is a role player. And the NBA draft is very much, at least the first round, about getting high impact guys.
I think it has like more to do with just like the talent pool over in Europe being like taken seriously now. Because like it's not just Victor. Like I'm pretty sure Luka Doncic played overseas.
Yep.
Like there's been some really good talent that's played overseas that has come over and started to be like top tier players in our league. So I think that like basketball on the world stage is much bigger. Like you have countries actually competing against us in the Olympics and these kinds of things now. And like FIBA World Cup is kind of important, even though I don't think anybody really takes it seriously. But like I do think that the draft is, I don't know, other than like the fanfare and kind of like a celebration of new talent coming into the NBA, of like really what's the point of it? Because like I think it's a detriment to the players, because look at how many guys got there and like had these humongous expectations on them, and like they fucking flamed out or forgot how to shoot, or like, I mean, Ben Simmons, like, look at that fucking train wreck. And it's like, I don't know if it's super important to put all this pressure on like kids who are just like not able to kind of handle as much as, like they're less resilient, I guess I would say. But yeah, like the other thing too is like the level of competition over in Europe probably was pretty good back in like the 90s and early 2000s, but it's like no, that like it's getting to match like where we're at, maybe not like all over Europe, but like the top talent in Europe is obviously coming over here and winning games. So it's like, like I think that there's more parity than there ever has been. And I think that that's one of the things that's probably killed it. And I would wonder too, what is like the name, image, likeness rules kind of playing into this too? Like, does that hurt like a draft stock? Because like you can, think about like brand deals and money after, you're done playing in that regard. So I think there's a multiple like factors that kind of play into it. But overall, I believe that like the draft is for like hardcore basketball fans. I would say it's not a night for like the average person who casually pays attention to their team during the regular season and can't name like the better players in whatever conference.
That's the death of the draft right there. And this is kind of what I was thinking about, is like basketball growing globally is really good for basketball, and it's really good for the NBA in general. Like I saw an article the other day that was saying, hey, the top 5 players in the NBA right now are all not from the United States. And it had like Jokic, Doncic, Giannis, Shea, and I think it had like Joel Embiid or something like that. And we could bicker over it all day, but like, a lot of the top guys are foreign. But I think about like, so say Wembanyama, like in the old system, would have had to come over from France and like play for Kansas for a year or something like that. And he had played in March Madness last year where everybody was watching him. People would have been absolutely losing their shit to draft this guy. And instead, everybody was like, I don't know. There's like some 7'6" guy from France. Is he even that good? And then you look at like what he's done this year, and it's like people should have been losing their shit to draft this guy. And it wasn't as big of a deal as it should have been for not, like you said, like casual fans, like not like hardcore fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like I would say casual fans knew about LeBron James back like in the day.
Well,
like
we had been hearing about him for
knew it.
3 years before he was drafted. So
and he was on ESPN.
Yeah.
But that's
what I'm
like,
saying though. Like he got fucking pumped up.
Yeah, people had seen him play though. So the thing is, like Wembanyama played one exhibition game that I think most people didn't even watch because it's an exhibition. And then if you wanted to watch his team, you had to watch like illegal streams from France. Right. And people at like 3 a.m, and people like weren't doing that. So
casuals.
That's how you tell the mark of a true casual fan. If you're not streaming French basketball at 3 a.m, what the fuck are you even doing?
Being filthy.
I have one more hot take that's not NBA related.
Okay.
And I said this to my friends yesterday, and they said that this is like the ultimate old man take from, they're like, that's a boomer take from like 8 years ago. Wow. I'm anti AirPods. I think AirPods are awful. And I think that if you wear AirPods, you suck. that's the take. And I know my buddies, some of my best friends wear AirPods. And if you guys are listening to this, you could full on eat my dick. The AirPods are awful.
Why? What makes them awful? I want to hear the argument here.
It's not the actual AirPods. And to be very clear, I have Beats. I have Bluetooth Beats that I wear all the time that I love. So I totally understand Bluetooth headphones. I'm good with it. AirPods specifically is just that like everybody walking around is wearing a fucking AirPod. My wife and I went to Chipotle to get food, and the girl taking our order had an AirPod in her ear while she's taking our order. And I'm like, she's like, what kind of meat do you want? And I'm like, carne asada. And she's like, what? And I'm like, carne asada. And she's like, oh, sorry. What did you say? And like has to stop whatever's going on her goddamn AirPod. And I was like, that's what got me started down this road. And now in the last week, I've seen 2 different people wearing AirPods while driving their cars. And it's gotten to the point where just seeing an AirPod in someone's ear makes me irrationally angry. But the real take is not that AirPods are bad. It's that everybody's just walking around all the time preoccupied with something else that's not going on in actual life. It's like I gotta
ask a question to Matt. If I'm not at my desk or actively doing work, do I wear my AirPods at like during work?
No. Because
I don't think it's
real human being.
I don't think it's an AirPod issue. I think it's a generational issue.
It is, but the AirPods have just become symbolic because they're so popular. So it's not really I hate AirPods. It's that I hate Gen Zs.
It's the principle.
I'm not behind the times. It's the children.
But yeah, it's the children. It's their fault. When I go to like Chipotle and I'm trying to like put my order in and the girl has an AirPod in her ear, I'm like, if you worked for me, I would fire you.
Yeah, I have issues like that with some of my families where like these people will like have their AirPods in while I'm like having a meeting with them talking about like important shit. And it's just like, no, we're talking about like your kids' mental health stuff. Like, what the hell? Like, you don't need to be listening to the fucking Tigers game while we do this. Or if you need to, like, put it on the radio.
Yeah.
I think it goes back to this like social anxiety thing that like I don't want to have to interact with anyone. And like I don't want to say that it's not valid because I am one of those people. I just have the fortunate like blessing of being a fucking giant who has resting bitch face. So like people normally don't want to come and talk to me anyway. But it's like yeah, you need to be able to fucking communicate with the outside world, because if you're in the service industry, like you need to know what the fuck is being told to you, and you need like the people who are telling you need to have confidence that like you can remember this stuff. Otherwise, it's like, why the fuck would I go out so I can repeat the fact that I wanted carne asada 7 times to some fucking asshole, when at that point I could have just fucking made it at home.
This was the real problem, is that all I wanted was fucking carne asada. It's not that hard.
I agree with the take, and I wear AirPods, but I don't wear them. Like I never use them for talking on the phone or anything like that. Like it's just for music at my desk or when I'm in the gym.
AirPods have just become a symbol of my hate for like these people who are only paying attention to like this thing that's more important to them than what's actually going on around them. And like life is happening around you. You have to pay attention to it. You can't always just be listening to some awesome sports podcast on your AirPod. Like there's probably someone who's taking someone's order at Chipotle listening to this right now. And they're like, I should take my AirPod out. Fucking life's going on around me, man. I got to get this guy his carne asada.
You specifically don't do that. Only you.
Well, this is, you leave your AirPod in and listen to the rest of this damn podcast. It's almost over.
Don't. You can listen to it after work. I promise. Like, it'll still be
No,
here.
you can't. You have to do it now.
I got a hot take, though. I got a hot take for you. I was talking about this with Matt. For the East, I don't have any for the West. Well, maybe. I think Shea is going to have like a really, really good run. I don't know if like it'll amount to any hardware or anything, but I think that like he's going to finally like really spread his wings. But for the East, I think the Miami Heat are going to make it to the conference finals coming out of 8th place.
Again?
Yes.
Oof. Matt, you got any other hot takes before we sign off?
I can't beat that.
I like
but I'm here for it.
But that is it for us. As always, Fouled Out can be found on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pocket Cast, Overcast, anywhere you get your podcast. You can hit us up at Gmail, fouledoutsports@gmail.com. And you can watch our videos on TikTok at Fouled Out Sports Podcast. It's a long name, but you can't miss it. Just a reminder that we are the #1 podcast of AirPod listeners while they're working at Chipotle. So don't you dare turn this off just because I insulted you.
And the #1 podcast of shilling Steven Adams.
That is also, the real thing that bothered me seeing people drive their cars with their AirPods in is that like it's a new car and it has Bluetooth speakers. Why do you need the AirPod? I'm not going to get over this. I'm not going to fucking get over
it.
Like
every car manufactured in the last 10 years has Bluetooth.
Hey, people who are driving Dodge like Chargers and shit though, like their speakers don't work. I know from experience. Like,
no,
that sucks.
But it's just become a symbol for me because I just saw this random dude shopping at Kroger the other day with his AirPods in, and I was like, "Fuck that guy."
God damn,
it's not his fault. And I was wearing my Bluetooth headphones; they're just not AirPods. So it's pot calling the kettle black. But we'll be back next Thursday to talk a little bit more NBA, and then we're gonna dive into March Madness in 2 weeks. So the week that the brackets come out, we'll be there with our March Madness preview. Hopefully to have Clint back on maybe next week to do some NBA. If you want to join us during March Madness as well, love having you on to talk basketball.
For sure.
But until then, we will see you guys soon.
Yep. So, bye, guys.
Take it easy.
Bye, guys. Bye, Mom.
Bye, Robin.